We'll try to ignore the obvious embarrassing things that are happening. So the answer to that is make sure to use your app every day, because the problem is if you get abstracted away from your product or your application and you're not using it anymore, you won't have any idea about how much resources you should allocate to changing it. I mean, for instance, when we built DropSend, which we've now sold, I made the mistake of not using the product for like a couple weeks at a time, and then you'd log in, you'd be like, "Fuck, this is so annoying. We should fix it." So I think basically make sure you use your own product a lot.
I think that's absolutely true. I think so many people just don't use their own.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you think you know your own product, so you stop using it.
And there's a cycle, there's like a graph as well, so you can see sort of at the start you have no features at all. And then as you build them out, you sort of like become more mature as a product. And you get to a point where you're solving the needs you're trying to solve, and you're doing it in a pretty good way. And at that point you can sort of go deeper on some things that are sort of, more smaller points. But how sort of much you invest in features or not depends on sort of where you're at in that. Are you solving the problem you're trying to solve? And if you are, then you can sort of invest time in other things.
And at the highest level, I guess take a step back. I mean, we see a lot of businesses, many fail, some go on to succeed. Some of those we're lucky enough to manage to invest in. And at the margin, the ones that invest in their product rather than marketing, and invest in the one thing about their product which is great rather than having extra features, those are the ones that most often go on to be successful. I mean, it's we've heard it from Ian before, we've heard it from Ryan. Couldn't stress enough, right? The one thing, and if you have a great product, then you get people love it, customer advocacy. If you come to sell your business, then the acquirers want the great product. Why did Yahoo buy Flickr? It was only for the product, right? And it comes back to the same thing time and time again, I think, and it's especially true in the web. In other areas, you can get away with having a crappier product and sell it cheaper than someone else, but when everything is, or so much stuff is free anyway, then product is really your only access of competition.
Hi guys. Sorry, am I okay?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a developer, and just coming back to the agile thing again, I think from experience, sort of the most powerful agile thing is Yagni. You ain't going to need it, but I find it very hard to actually get junior developers to stick to that. They always want to build the Rolls Royce. They want to use the coolest technology. They want to just, they think they always start with the what if we need this in the future, rather than thinking about the right now. Have you got any thoughts on how you rein them in and just get them to build for the now, and then get that out there, ship it, and then get some feedback?
Yeah, let them do stuff on the side. We every once in a while we do something called an idea week, and we just say, hey, do whatever you want to do. Like, it's got to be done by Thursday at 6 p.m. And give them an outlet that's not product-based, that you don't have to worry about the business model, and just say, kick ass on this, do anything you want to do. That's what I'd say.
That's good.
And I think we do a similar kind of thing. I think at the end of a release, we'll sometimes have like a week where you're allowed to do some of the things that probably aren't always core. So every couple of key releases, and let them, I mean, it's the same thing really. Let them play a bit. But I think it's it's not really just about reining them in. I mean, it's buying them into why this is important, and actually in some ways letting them choose some of those priorities. I think as well, buying them into it a bit. I think.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, I think so. The reason why you don't want them to do that is because there are very sort of clear business ramifications for that, and they're not always made clear to the dev team. So you kind of have to align your personal sort of objectives with theirs, and they're all smart guys, so you can teach them exactly why it matters that this comes out this week as opposed to next. For them, they may just see like the sort of 1 year time scale, see that actually over that 1 year this thing will be used again and again and again, and therefore it's worth doing now because we can reuse it. But for you can see that, well, actually we're going to change something in a few months' time. This is all very experimental. We don't know if it's going to work or not. We just want to get out there and see what happens. If they don't understand that, they can't possibly sort of
There's actually a really good question on the Twitter feed from Andy Beard. What percentage of successful startups just listen to their users rather than the founder vision? And actually, it's very pertinent at the moment, given the Facebook redesign, that actually they've turned around and they've gone, no, actually, you're just going to have it like this. And there is TechCrunch actually often writes about this, that sometimes founders actually have to have a vision that they just go for and just almost ignore the users to an extent. The typical example of this is Apple. They just keep coming out, they keep taking things out of the laptop, like FireWire and stuff, even though you kind of want it. I mean, does anybody have a view on that?
you know, to build a great startup, you've got to take the world forward, you know, and taking the world forward means taking them places they didn't know exist, and you can't do that just by asking people what they want, right? You've got to lead them. I'm a strong believer in that.
There's a question at the front here, and then we're going to take a couple more questions and a few more Twitter jokes, I suppose, and then we'll have a coffee break.
Hi, yeah, it was interesting you were mentioning Kathy Sierra earlier. She also says that, you know, if you want to really change the world, you don't listen to your users. You listen to other people's users, not your own. Because if you just listen to your own users, you're only going to get incremental change. You're not going to get earth-shattering change. The other thing I wanted to say was something that you mentioned earlier, Mike. You know, you talked about targeting the millions of geeks that are in Silicon Valley. When we originally launched, we were totally blown away when we were written up into TechCrunch. We thought, fantastic, this is great. But then we realized that actually that's not our target audience. You know, the LA Times, Fox News, that was our target audience. It wasn't TechCrunch, it wasn't the geeks. So really think about who your target audience is. Don't necessarily think that everyone's like you, and that if you get the geeks on board, the early adopters, that you'll be all right.
Oh, sure. I think if your marketing strategy is post on TechCrunch, then you're really in trouble. It's not just about that, or it's pretty much nearly all about that.
Interesting. Just take 1 second. Interesting thing happened. We did a conference last year, and Ian Dodsworth, who's here somewhere. Where are you, Ian? Cool. So he was building TweetDeck, actually, almost in that chair. I saw it and I was like, what's that? And he's like, hey, it's this Twitter thing, and it helps you use Twitter better. And anyway, and now Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore use it. And that was basically in a year, wasn't it? Yeah, so the exciting thing about the world we live in is that if you guys build amazing things, that, you know, it can do really well really quickly. So, you know, by this time next year, it'd be awesome to hear about some stories from you guys that are, you know, you're famous now. So, you know, we'll see what happens, and I'm sure that somebody will. So
that's a very good point to end on. Let's all get famous. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for the kind of collective effort.